They keep trying to gaslight you. They keep trying to lie to you, except the facts are actually catching up with their lies. The media, it appears, finally come clean and explain that, yeah, maybe DC isn't Main Street USA at Disney World. We're going to give you all the details of them having to admit that crime is a problem and maybe Trump has the solution. We've got that for you. Plus, they were also forced to report on some amazing good economic news yesterday, and they didn't like it one bit. And we like it when they're uncomfortable with good news, so we're going to watch that together. Also, some full frontal attacks on ICE, like we're talking dangerous terrorist language they're using against our federal law enforcement officials. We're going to name names coming up right now. We're brought to you by Birch Gold. My name's Larry O'Connor, and you can call me Larry. Hey, y'all, give us a like, why don't you? And subscribe to our videos. Our subscription, we're going crazy right now with new subscribers, and we welcome you and appreciate you being part of the family here. Hope you're watching us live during the live chat. It's always a fun party. My God, the number of people joining us live yesterday at the chat was phenomenal. And part of the reason why so many people joined the party is because you all gave us likes early on. So give us a like right now, and that'll attract even more people. That's how it works. Don't blame me. I don't make the rules. Hit a like. Is the continued divide between Trump and the Federal Reserve putting us behind the curve again? Can the Fed take the right action at the right time, or are we going to be looking at a potential economic slowdown? These are the questions that we're all facing right now, but the most important question for you is, how does it affect your savings? Consider diversifying with gold through Birch Gold Group. For decades, gold has been viewed by many as a safe haven in times of economic stagnation or global uncertainty or high inflation. Some could argue that we're experiencing one or all of those things in the coming months. Birch Gold makes it incredibly easy for you to diversify some of your savings into gold. If you've got an IRA or an old 401k, you can convert that into a tax-sheltered IRA in physical gold, like actual gold. Or you can just buy some gold and then keep it in your safe at home or wherever you keep your secret stuff. First, though, you want to get educated. Birch Gold's going to send you a free info kit on gold. Just text my name, Larry, to the number 989898. Again, text Larry to 989898. Consider diversifying a portion of your savings into gold. And that way, if the Fed can't stay ahead of the curve for the country, at least you can take action for yourself. That's Larry to 989898. Do that today. Well, CNN and MSNBC just can't keep lying to you, can they? Well, sure they can. We've seen it for decades now. But it looks like the actual feelings of regular Washingtonians, people who have to live in the crime-infested streets of our nation's capital, well, they're catching up to the lies that they're being told by the mainstream media and by the Democrats. And both CNN and MSNBC had to come clean over the last 12 hours. And we're going to show you some of the highlights. Let's start with Morning Joe this morning.
I live in Washington. This is personal for me. Many people are frustrated with crime that we see, particularly committed by juveniles in the city of Washington. People are frustrated, Willie, that when they go to CVS to buy deodorant, that they have to get it from behind locked plexiglass, right? But the response here, and let me say this, right? These are not just random anecdotes. What we see in Washington Post polling, among others, is that roughly half of DC residents, mostly half of DC residents, view this as a serious problem or an extremely serious problem. And
wow, that's saying something. Half of DC residents see crime and criminals in their midst as either a serious problem or a very serious problem. It's almost like Trump gets it. It's almost like Trump and Republicans who are finally trying to do something about it because they've had enough, and enough is definitely genuinely enough, are actually demonstrating good governance and law enforcement at a time when the people who are suffering because of the horrific failed policies of the Democrats want some action. And action is exactly what they're getting. It's almost like all the people who have what the kids like to call a lived experience every day, walking their own streets, walking and riding the metro in Washington, D.C., and feeling intimidated or feeling like they're victims of crime or knowing that they know someone who is a victim of a crime. It's almost like looking at those cooked up books and graphs and charts and stats don't really make a big difference in their lives when they're about to get carjacked. Morning Joe continued, this time with Chris Matthews, longtime D.C. resident, trying to warn Democrats about the dangers of being on the side of the criminals.
And the murder rate, you can't keep saying violent crime is down, but the murder rate's up. To the average person, the murder rate's about life and death. You don't brag about a rising murder rate. And the Democrats are, I agree with you, Mika, they're falling into the trap of defending what's indefensible.
It's a trap. Yes, it's a trap. I mean, if it's not a winner politically to say, oh, you're wrong, look at the data, because, you know, if one violent crime happens in a very heavily populated part of the city, people hear about it and it's visceral. They don't want it. And they'll gravitate to the person who appears to be doing something about it.
Boy, they changed their tune in just one day, didn't they? This is phenomenal. I want to break this down quickly because we've got a lot of clips to get to, but this deserves its own little hallway in the TV media bias, ludicrous, idiotic Hall of Fame.
And the murder rate, you can't keep saying violent crime is down, but the murder rate's up. To the average person, the murder rate's about life and death.
To the average person, murder is about life and death. To your typical person, you know, not enlightened, educated people like us who get to read teleprompters on television and make millions of dollars. To us, we know that murder is, you know, well beyond and transcends life and death. To the average person, murder is about life and death. I'm pretty sure everybody considers murder a life and death issue.
You don't brag about a rising murder rate. And the Democrats are, I agree with you, Mika. They're falling into the trap of defending what's indefensible.
It's a trap. Yes,
it's a trap. And of course, let's just play the conversation out here. If it's a trap, that means somebody set the trap. Somebody evil, somebody dastardly, somebody maniacal who's twirling their evil mustache. Who set the trap? You know who. That fascist authoritarian Donald Trump. He's trapped the Democrats. He's forced these Democrats into a trap that he devised with Stephen Miller, probably, to force Democrats to defend murder, to defend murderers and the politicians who enable them. It's amazing. But I'm sure the Democrats in this town are way too smart to get caught into that trap, right? Let's check in with one of the leading Democrats. In fact, he's the leader of the Democrats in the House. Some would say that he's the next man in line to be Speaker of the House. That's a big deal. Hakeem Jeffries, you're smart enough to fall into that trap, aren't you? Yeah, he stuck in the trap. Hakeem Jeffries posts violent crime in Washington, D.C. is at a 30-year low. I mean, just look at the numbers, everybody. Donald Trump has no basis to take over the local police department and zero credibility on the issue of law and order. Get lost. By the way, I said yesterday that the president's powers to take over the local police department is for 48 hours, which it is in most cases. But based on the emergency actions he's triggered, he actually has 30 days in total. But that's only for command and control of the Metropolitan Police Department in D.C. After those 30 days, by the way, he can go back to Congress and get reauthorization, which if he wants it and needs it, he probably could. But in terms of the control over federal law enforcement and having them and directing them to integrate and support and give reinforcements to local police department, he has that power in perpetuity. That's part of the executive branch's power. But I just want to make sure that was clear for everybody watching. So there you go. Hakeem Jeffries, violent crime in D.C. is at a 30-year low. Hakeem Jeffries has the pleasure of armed security in Washington wherever he goes. So I guess for Hakeem Jeffries, everything's just great. Over on CNN, none other than S.E. Cupp. Remember her? SE Cup has actually seen a little bit of the light when it comes to this. But understand, anybody like Chris Matthews or Mika Brzezinski or going on television and saying, things are pretty bad in DC. Maybe, they're not doing this because they want things to get better. They're not saying this because they think Trump is right, even if he is. They're not saying anything on cable news in support of the president's actions because they actually want to solve the crime problem. No, the reason they're saying things is, as you just saw, they don't want Democrats to get hurt by this. They see this as a political issue, beginning, middle, and end. That's the entire perspective. They don't care about the murder rate. They don't care about carjackings. They don't care about armed robbery. They don't care about violence. They care about Democrats defeating Republicans. So take it away, SE.
Yeah, I think a few things can be true. One is that I think he's using this issue to distract for some other things. That doesn't mean it's a bad political strategy. I think it's a very good one. And the numbers can be what they are, but also people don't feel that way. And when it comes to two things, crime and the economy, feelings don't really care about your facts. And I can't tell you how profoundly stupid it is for Democrats to get up with their facts and their figures and their charts and their graphs and say, look, you're safe. Can't you read this chart, idiots? Why are you complaining? I'm showing you right here how safe you are, so shut up and move along. I don't have to tell you how profoundly stupid that is because voters told you how profoundly stupid that was in 2024 when Democrats said, see these economic numbers? The economy's great. What are you complaining about? See these crime numbers? Crime's down. You're safe. See these immigration numbers? Obama deported way more. There's no migrant crisis. I can't tell you enough that politics is perception and the numbers can be right, but you never tell voters they're wrong about how they feel.
All right. Listen, I'll give her due. That is a correct observation, but let's call a spade a spade. She was one of those people in the last election who was beating the drum saying, the economy's great. What are you people talking about? It's fine. Just look at the CPI and look at this and look at that and look at. So I'm glad she's found religion all of a sudden. And she stopped drinking the Kool-Aid, at least for a day or maybe a few hours there. But understand the whole context of this. Democrats, you're being stupid is all she cares about. She wants the Democrats to fix their ways so they don't lose again. That's all that matters, not actually fixing the problem. We've had a 48-hour news cycle now. By the way, how brilliant is Trump that he announced this thing over the weekend? He gave the announcement on Monday. It's Wednesday at noon, and this is still the dominant story in America. And he's on the winning end of it. In fact, we're showing you how even members of the media who hate him have to concede that they and Democrats are lying about this issue. It's almost like some of the people in these newsrooms recognize that they have zero credibility by telling people that blue sky ain't as blue as you think it is. So we've gone through this news cycle now where the Washington Post and the New York Times and all of these smart guys are trying to convince you that DC is a super safe city, even though their murder rate is higher than Bogota, Colombia, and Mexico City. But they're not doing something that I like to refer to as journalisming. You see, with journalisming, instead of just republishing and regurgitating crime stats that are being fed to you literally by the Biden Justice Department 7 months ago before they fled town, journalisming is actually talking to people impacted and affected by the policies, impacted negatively by the lack of control and law and order in Washington, D.C., and impacted positively by just 24 hours of Donald Trump's mobilization of federal law enforcement and National Guard. So let's do a little journalisming. In fact, it's specifically citizen journalisming. Here's a DC resident, lifelong DC resident, who has been impacted on both sides of the equation. Let him tell the story.
Reports show what, but you can't hide the crime, young. You can't do it. Let me give you something to break it down to you for those that don't understand. I retired from UPS, right? So what they used to do to play with the numbers or whatever, we have mission packages. You'll have drivers over the hours. They go in and enter the information, and the report will show whatever they needed to show to keep their bonus that week for their bosses not to fire their ass. So stop believing that stuff. And I don't know if you ever had to deal with the DC government, young, but they suck, young. They have got a lot more better now that the officers have did what they had to do and got all of these people out of the government and got rid of the riffraff and things of that nature. People actually do work now. Let me give you this for example, right? You got carry-in conceals or whatever that were being issued by the DC separate department that was handling the gun license and the things of that nature. They went from turnaround time for like 4 months, 5 months for you to have to damn get a gun registered in DC and get a carry and conceal to 2 weeks. It used to take you 3 months just to get an appointment to talk to somebody and take your information and your gun down there. Now, you go online right now and they got appointments available tomorrow. How does that happen? What changed? You put some fire under their asses and now they want to do some work.
Now, that's his analysis and firsthand experience about what's going on in DC. But what about his impression of Washington just 24 hours after President Trump took his initiative? Well, take a look. Live from the streets. Well, not live, but recorded live from the streets of DC.
Man, down the city is quiet as a church mouse, man. I came all the way down Pennsylvania Avenue this morning. So peaceful, yeah. I don't smell no weed, yeah. I don't see no homeless people. I mean, I came all the way through the southeast side, all the way down here. You see now I'm at the White House, jump, man. It's quiet, yeah. It's a shame that it takes somebody to have to sit in your classroom in order for you to be in order, yeah? Because that's what it feels like, yeah? You got to be babysitted to do your job, yeah? Stuff been out of control for years. You got to do better, yeah? You got to do better, yeah?
I love this guy. I love Dwayne. Thank you, Dwayne. Journalisming. Actually telling you what's going on, actually giving a firsthand report. Maybe the fact that so much of the media lying about this story for the last 48 hours are based in DC, and the people who work with them actually had the courage to say, dude, I saw your segment yesterday, right? The cameraman, maybe the sound operator, the people who don't have armed securities, the people who don't live in armed secure buildings, who actually said, you're getting this wrong, man. Maybe it was the hair and makeup people as they were making them look pretty with their hairstyles before they read their teleprompters, who said, maybe you should re-examine this. Not sure what got into them, but suddenly we saw a change of tone. It happened mid-afternoon, late afternoon yesterday. Take a look at this. Casey Hunt, CNN, interviewing the Attorney General. This is an elected official in the District of Columbia who is just like all these other attorney generals, or excuse me, in other cities, they're district attorneys or Commonwealth attorney. DC's weird. They have an attorney general, even though they're not a state, but he acts as a district attorney. He works along with the U.S. attorney, but he's got certain powers over certain crimes, whether he wants to prosecute them or not, whether he wants to prosecute people at a high penalty to put them away for a long time or let them off with a slap on the wrist. He championed the new laws that allow for juveniles to do literally murder and yet still get freed at the age of 21, no matter what. This guy, Casey Hunt, actually challenged him.
What do you say to DC residents who simply don't feel like the city is safer now than it used to be?
I tell them that I feel that as well, that we want all to work together to reduce crime to where there is no crime in our city. That's what we all aspire to do. One crime is one too many. But we also have to recognize that we have made meaningful strides on violent crime in particular.
Yeah, blah, blah, blah. That's your opening salvo question, softball-y, that he was prepared for, memorized, and rehearsed. So now Casey Hunt gets some credit. Take a listen to this brutal follow-up question.
So let's talk about DC residents for a second, because these headlines, and I was a resident of DC for over 20 years. I've lived in all but 3 DC wards, okay? These headlines are different from when I first came to the city. 13-year-old girl, 13, sentenced to 7 years for 2023 beating death of a DC man. Teen sentenced in killing of Lyft driver who came to U.S. seeking safety. This was a guy who was a U.S. military interpreter who was shot and killed in an attempted carjacking, again, by a 16-year-old. Now, juveniles fall under you, and the DC Attorney General, Jeanine Pirro, DC Attorney Jeanine Pirro, has focused in on this inability that she says she has to prosecute juveniles. The law allows people up to the age of 24 years old to potentially have more lenient sentences from judges. Is that working for people in DC?
That, thank you, Newsbusters, for the clip, was a great question. Yeah, I've given Casey Hunt plenty of trouble on this show. What is changing here? What is different? I've got a hunch. I'm going to show you in a second. But let's go ahead and let the Attorney General, this failed, despicable, horrible elected official who has helped make DC as unsafe as it is, let's let him answer that brutal question.
What the president said yesterday at the press conference is very different than the facts on the ground here in the District of Columbia. We have done very well in reducing crime over the last couple of years. There's a lot more work to be done. But the fact of the matter is that local policing and local government have made meaningful strides in reducing crime in the District of Columbia. Our view is that if the federal government really wants to work with the District of Columbia to keep us safe, we welcome that. We are working every day and have been working every day with federal law enforcement in terms of keeping the residents and the visitors of DC safe. There was no need for a takeover of the MPD to.
Oh, he's just a liar, and I'm not going to insult your intelligence anymore with his lies. It was pathetic, and he left the studio a little battered and a little bruised, and that's a good thing. Things are moving in the right direction here, not just for policy in D.C., which, by the way, becomes a tipping point for every other city in this country, because if what President Trump is doing here works, and so far it is working, and people have to concede that it works, then every other major city in this country needs to look at their elected officials and say, hey, what gives? Why don't we do this? We don't need Trump to come in here and do it. Why don't you do it? That's what we pay you for, right? So policy-wise, things are moving in the right direction. Suddenly, the media, as you just saw, has to stop lying, and they start actually reporting the truth, the facts on the ground, and challenge some of these corrupt elected officials who have allowed this morass to become the status quo. What's different? What changed for the media? Well, like I said, it may have been anecdotal, where people that they actually work with, or maybe their own lived experience, suddenly knocked on the door and said, no, you're wrong. DC is a problem, and it's not a crime problem. Let's be clear. It's a criminal problem, because the criminals are allowed to break the law, and they're not punished. That's the problem, and it needs to be fixed. I saw one reporter, a print reporter, take to the X social media platform yesterday and say, I don't know what Trump is talking about. The DC has crime problems, but it's not Mogadishu. And she was right, and she was supported with that assertion with some facts. Somebody replied to her and said, you're right, DC isn't Mogadishu. Mogadishu is way safer than Washington, D.C. And all the stats were laid out to prove that point. So what gives? What's happening? Well, I've been making fun of them for pointing at the charts and the data and the numbers to lie to you about the reality of crime in Washington, D.C. But allow me to show you a different chart, a chart that I think might be making a difference for how the news suddenly is being covered, at least on this story, out of Washington, D.C. Take a look at this chart. It's the latest overnight ratings for CNN right after this story hit. CNN is the middle column. It starts at 4 p.m. Casey Hunt, that's her show. You just saw it. And it goes all the way through 11 p.m. This is what the professionals like to call prime time. It's an important part of the cable news day. It's where they make their most money in advertising. Take a look at those numbers for CNN. I mean, it ain't much better for MSNBC. And of course, Fox News Channel is on the left. You look at the highest rated show for CNN. It was our buddy Jake Tapper, his first hour, the lead, with 479,000 viewers. Wow, that's something. The worst performing show last night was the 11 p.m. show at Fox News Channel, and they had almost triple the number that Jake Tapper had at 5 p.m. That's devastating. And if you add all of these numbers, let's do it in our head real fast together. 400, let's give him 500. That's 900 plus another 500 is 1,400, 1,900. You doing this with me? 2,300, 2,700. I'm being generous. 3,000, and then give him another 200. Let's round it up to 250. 3,250 is the total Nielsen rated audience from 4 p.m. through midnight for the entire primetime lineup combined into one big basket for CNN. 3,250. That's 3.25 million viewers total. Take a look at the 5 at 5 p.m. on Fox News Channel. One show for 1 hour had 3.35 million. That one show had more viewers than all of CNN from 4 p.m. till midnight. I could be wrong, but we're all analyzing numbers and charts on crime and coming up with our conclusions. I just showed you the difference that just one day made with how CNN and MSNBC was reporting this story. Yeah, part of it is because they want to help Democrats, but the other part might be, I could be wrong, but it might be that they actually would like to attract viewers again. We do a lot of media analysis on this show every day, and part of it is based on the premise that the media lies to you. That's why I wrote this book based on the 2024 presidential election. It's called Shameless Liars: How Trump Defeated the Legacy Media and Made Them Irrelevant. I go through all the lies of the entire unprecedented presidential election, and I show you how they lied about Biden, about Kamala, and certainly about Trump and Vance, but how Trump beat them every step of the way. It's got a happy ending. Spoiler alert, the happy ending is we don't need them anymore because we've got platforms like this. We appreciate you watching our show, and I would really appreciate you buying my book. It's a hardcover, paperback, and audiobook. You're going to love it. It's true. They're going to love it. Yesterday, the media pooped their pants having to report how great the economy was. Wall Street exploded. New inflation numbers, remarkable. But one congresswoman, Madam Jayapal, perhaps you're familiar with her, she lied to the audience on cable news and said the prices are actually going up, which is really weird because when Biden was president and inflation was hitting like 9, 10, 11%, she was singing a very different song about inflation. We're going to show you all that hypocrisy and all those lies coming up in a second. But first, to CNBC last night with the big numbers.
Stocks ending the day with some nice gains. The Nasdaq and S&P hitting all-time highs. Small caps, the Russell, the big winner, up about 3%. Best day since May. Just barely shy of 3%, as a matter of fact. 10 out of 11 S&P sectors higher. Communication services and financials leading. Stocks.
Yep. Record-breaking day yesterday, and you probably already knew that because you probably checked your 401k before you started your day. Over at Fox News midday, they had a similar report, and they tied it to a little bit of positive economic data.
Breaking news on the economy now. The Consumer Price Index, which measures inflation for the month of July, just out moments ago. Inflation rising 2.7%, same time a year ago. That is lower than analysts estimated.
Yeah, because the analysts are always wrong, aren't they? 2.7, 2.2, depending on who you talk to and how they break down the various components that make up the consumer price index. Either way, inflation generally, and most economists will say, should be around that 2% value. By the way, this is an annualized number, as you can see, year over year. So the actual monthly number was more like, 0.1 to 0.17 from month to month. This is great, especially compared to last year, right? So what's with all these numbers and why is it happening? Because I was promised higher inflation. I was promised the tariffs were going to drive prices up. Didn't Jerome Powell say a couple of months ago that all the experts he's talking to say that by midsummer we would have increasing inflation, and that's why he didn't want to lower interest rates? This is literally the very dead middle of summer. So where the hell is all the inflation I was promised? Well, we'll break it down for you in just a second. I mean, I'll give you a hint. It's exactly what Trump said he was going to do during the campaign, exactly what we explained to you was going to happen when he became president and how he would affect inflation. If you watch this show on a regular basis, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I'll show you in a sec. First, though, Caroline Levitt yesterday during the press briefing had much to say about the economy.
Continue to see positive economic reports across the board. Today's CPI report revealed that inflation beat market expectations once again, and inflation remains stable. Overall, inflation has run at a 1.9 average annual pace in President Trump's first 6 months in office. Prices for everyday goods continue to decline. Energy prices fell in July, including gasoline, which is down nearly 10% over last year, and propane, which is down 2.5% over last year as well. Egg prices fell once again in July and are down 20% since President Trump took office. Shelter inflation, the largest contributor to overall inflation, is at its lowest level since October of 2021. Wage growth for American workers is beating inflation once again. As inflation declines, this administration continues to be wholeheartedly committed to putting more money back into the American people's pockets. American real wages are up 1.3% over last year and have increased each month since President Trump took office. And small business optimism, according to this morning's report, has also reached a 5-month high. Ignore the panicans and trust in President Trump. That is our motto here at the White House. The America First economic agenda is working.
Ignore the panicans. And of course, those were Republicans who were very concerned about the tariff protocols and policies and the threat of the use of tariffs and how it might affect the economy, which again has not really materialized as we were promised. Okay, so what's really behind this? Real fast, the clue is in how CNN had to report it. Let's just be clear. The networks and the professional economists and the Trump derangement syndrome reporters on your financial networks, they've been rooting for this economy to fail. They've been promising failure left and right. To see them have to continue month after month, report good economic news and watch Wall Street soar through the roof, it drives them nuts. And CNN was no different. It's a beautiful thing to watch.
When you look at the key categories that we always look at, energy, food, and shelter, energy fell by 1.1%. That was largely driven because of gas prices falling in the month of July by 2.2%. Look at that food. I mean, this is where people spend their money, right? Food every single day. Food flat, 0%, and actually down at the grocery store by 0.1%. And then shelter, we always usually see an increase because that is what people are paying on rent. And we know that rents are rising. When you look.
All right. So there's your answer. Why the economy is strong right now and why prices are down. Real quickly, I'll break it down and give you the analysis.
Look at the key categories that we always look at: energy, food, and shelter. Energy fell by 1.1%. That was largely driven because of gas prices falling in the month of July.
All right, right there. And that affects everything. Why is the food number down? Because of the energy prices being down. Why is home construction prices down or stabilized? Because of the energy numbers. And by the way, if you track gas prices in America over the course of the last 10 or 20 years, July is usually a spike month. Energy prices go up, gasoline prices spike and go up in the month of July, partly because of the heat and air conditioning costs for oil and things like that, and electricity and natural gas and stuff like that, but also because people are going on road trips. People are driving more. There's higher demand. There's less supply. People are vacationing. Every single year, I report on this on my morning radio show that, well, it's July and August. That means gas prices are going up. And yet this year, prices went down. Gas prices down by a dime suddenly in the middle of summer. And that's without, what Biden did, tapping into our strategic petroleum reserves to falsely and sort of erroneously bringing the prices down based on a falsified increase of supply. No, this is because of policies. And this is what I meant when I said it's exactly what Trump promised and exactly what we repeated all through the campaign on this show last year. How's Trump going to bring prices down immediately? It's just funny. I remember Biden and Kamala Harris say, why, he doesn't have a plan. He doesn't know how to bring prices down. It's very complicated. You have to have really experts from Harvard to figure it out. No. Everything requires energy. Everything. Oil requires energy. Or excuse me, everything requires oil or requires gas or requires gasoline. Everything requires energy. Biden and Kamala's policies literally made energy falsely, erroneously forced the price of energy up, not because of supply and demand and free market principles, but because of government intervention. They didn't allow for new exploration of oil in this country. They didn't want to make any deals with foreign entities to bring prices down on a global level. They crapped all over oil and gas industries in this country. They forced new printed money that we don't actually have to subsidize solar panels and wind farms and electric vehicles, to create a demand that isn't there and create a supply that didn't accommodate a non-existent demand. And suddenly, lo and behold, everything costs more in our country because energy costs more. Trump said, I'll fix inflation. Drill, baby, drill. That's what he said he was going to do. He was going to free up regulations on the oil and gas industry, emphasize local exploration so we can be energy independent and not rely on Middle Eastern countries and, God forbid, Russia or Venezuela. We would have our own oil, our own gas, our own energy. It would be cheaper. And by the way, us literally pumping all of that supply into the global markets will bring the price down globally as well. That's everything that's happened in the last 7 months. And here we are in July. Well, August. The numbers are in. Gas prices are down a dime. That means energy across the board is down by 1%. And lo and behold, everything else is more affordable. That's how it works. So it's all good news, right? Sure it is. Unless you're a Democrat. Unless you're Congresswoman Jayapal, who went on MSNBC after all of these numbers, after all of this data, after everything you just saw, CNN reluctantly report to you about the price of food and the price of energy and the price of housing. Here's a Democrat pretending none of those facts are facts.
I think that he lied. He lied to people and said that he was going to bring down costs on day one. And the reality is that is not at all what he's done. His tariffs, his unhinged tariff policy has raised prices for everyday Americans on everything that they need to survive.
Just a lie. I mean, it's just a lie. But Congresswoman Jayapal is not immune from lying. She's no stranger to lying, especially about the economy and especially about inflation. That's what she said last night after the consumer price index numbers came in and they were so positive, after the stock market soared, after breakdown of costs of items like food and energy all came in well under what anybody estimated. And miles below where it was in the heyday of Biden's economy back in 2022 with almost double-digit inflation on a month-to-month basis. But what was she saying back then? Back when inflation was crippling, back when prices were soaring, what did she say when Biden was in the White House, when we actually did have the cost of everything going through the roof, when inflation was completely out of control? What did she say then?
It is ultimately going to lead to a reduction in overall inflation, but most importantly, to the budget that people have every single day. Inflation is like a theoretical word that economists use, but what families feel every day is the up or down of costs.
Oh, that's not probably going to help make anybody feel better.
No, it didn't make anybody feel better. You know, inflation, it's just a theoretical thing. It's not real. It's just a theoretical thing. Here's what inflation is. Inflation is everything that you need costing more, not because of basic economic principles of supply and demand, but because the government has stepped in and everything up. That's what inflation is. Either through monetary policy by printing more money, which then reduces the value of the dollar sitting in your accounts or in your pocket, or by increasing regulations and demands on industry that screws with supply and demand and the basic cost of doing business. Now, you could make the argument that tariffs could increase inflationary prices on things because it's the government intervening and making things more expensive. But so far, that has not been the case. And for the most part, the tariffs have really just been sort of a weapon or tool for the president to use to even out our trade imbalance with many countries around the world. But short of that, everything that President Trump has done with his Secretary of Treasury, Mr. Bessent, has been to remove and reduce all of the artificial impediments that the Biden administration put in when she was calling inflation theoretical. No, it ain't theoretical. But when she's in support of all of those impediments, she loves printing money we don't have because it pays for all the socialist crap that she wants to do that makes everything more expensive. So at that point, when inflation really is a problem in your life, she likes to call it, oh, it's theoretical. It's not real. And now when prices are actually going down, she sits in front of an audience on MSNBC and says the prices are going up. But that's the Democrats for you in a nutshell right now in Washington, D.C. All they've got is lies. But I got to tell you, if you've noticed a pattern in today's program, people in the media are actually starting to be forced to tell the truth and acknowledge reality. I never thought I'd see this day, but here's Jonathan Karl on PBS's Washington Week in Review, which about a handful of people in Washington watch. But the panel sort of recognized that, like it or not, Trump's getting shit done.
This one, he's making more radical changes to the country and to the White House that'll live well beyond his presidency.
Right. And I think part of it is because he now knows how government works. I think one of the things that really is the key difference between the first term and the second term is that he had a whole host of characters in the government that were trying to stymie his efforts to radically change the country. He's now surrounded by people that are fully supportive of his agenda and helping him do it. He is way more effective at accomplishing his agenda with having that time out of office because a lot of his aides, Russ Vought, those sorts of officials spent their time out of government planning for this term. And so what they've done is an onslaught of executive orders in the first 6 months that accomplished a lot of their goals very quickly because he knew what they wanted to do.
In other words, we just can't stop winning. And listen, if you're a viewer of this program, you know that already. If you listen to our podcast, you know this already. We've been talking about it for months and months and months. Those 4 years ended up being an incredibly effective period for the team around President Trump to plan and strategically put into reality their ideas, their agenda, and we're seeing it play out. And so far, everything seems to be working, despite the efforts of the opposition party and the opposition media. It's quite a time to be alive, and hopefully you're pretty happy with those economic numbers too. A lot happier than, CNN. You ever wonder what happened to Monica Lewinsky? Yeah, you know Monica Lewinsky with the cigar and the well, Monica Lewinsky has a podcast because of course she does. She had John Oliver on the other day. He's the sort of unfunny comedian who stole Jon Stewart's bit for HBO. And they lamented at the fact that ICE is basically a terrorist organization and hunting down people in the streets. Yeah, that's what they said. We'll show it to you in just a second. It's despicable because at a time when ICE agents are literally under fire from radical left-wing maniacs, where they actually have to cover their face to hide their identity because their families are being threatened on a daily basis, we've got Democrats and media personalities and Monica Lewinsky actually making their jobs harder and threatening their very existence with their dangerous rhetoric. And sadly, we've got a whole list of them who were joining the party. Let's start with this woman. She's a congresswoman, don't you know, from Illinois, Congresswoman Delia Ramirez. You'll remember her. She's the one who, despite being born in the United States of America to Guatemalan first-generation immigrants, just last week at an appearance down in Central America, said in Spanish that she is more Guatemalan than American. Oh, she's walked it back. She was quoted out of context, don't you know? It's a language barrier thing. No. We believe you when you tell us who you are. Well, she appeared at a thing called Netroots Nation. It's been around for about 15, 20 years. It's for the fringiest of the fringe in the radical left. We've got a word for them. Democrats. They get together and they figure out how much they hate this country and how they want to destroy it. And boy, oh boy, she didn't hold back when talking about federal law enforcement officers at ICE.
Well, Tom Homan, let me tell you, all over the country, we will continue to stand up for our rights, and we will continue to call out the terrorist organization that is ICE.
Terrorist organization. This is a sitting congresswoman. She is an elected official in the House of Representatives. She approves the budget for federal law enforcement entities like ICE. She just called them a terrorist organization. She has the right to say it, freedom of speech and all that. But there's something despicable about a congresswoman referring to federal law enforcement as terrorists. But here's the thing about being a Democrat. You can get away with that kind of thing. Now, if a Republican says it, well, you're an insurrectionist. January 6th, don't you know? But this congresswoman, she's celebrated. Are you kidding? Her clout just went up. They'll make her an honorary member of the squad. She'll probably run for Senate in Illinois sometime soon. Let's swing over to Monica Lewinsky's podcast. Boy, if you had told me Monica Lewinsky was going to have a podcast, we could have a great contest trying to figure out what the name of it should be. She called it Reclaiming because, see, she wants to reclaim her identity, reclaim her dignity, reclaim her persona because it was dragged through the mud by the likes of Matt Drudge and conservative commentators. It's all their fault, don't you know? Sure. Hey, if you have an idea for what Monica Lewinsky's podcast should be, why don't you put it right down there in the live chat or in the comments? Anyway, she had John Oliver, an American-hating new citizen, and they were lamenting about the fact that once he got his citizenship, coming to this country to make a ton of money telling jokes that other people write for him, and I think he works about 22 weeks a year. It's a good gig. It's just one day a week, by the way. Well, he still hates this country because the wrong person won the election. Take a look.
Immigration experience is tough, even if you have the best version of it. And there's no doubt I had the best version of it. I had like Viacom lawyers.
Right.
At that point when I was with the Daily Show, then I finally got my citizenship in 2019, at the end of 2019. But I realized I thought about it every day. Somewhere at the back of my head was my immigration status. At no point was it not somewhere in my mind. And I have to remind myself now with all these stories going on
it's so hard.
It brings something out of you, right? It's there, that anxiety that I thought I'd moved past that day that I got my citizenship. I thought it would be gone then. It didn't feel that. The relief didn't feel enough.
I've had a sense of understanding a tiny, tiny bit that I empathize with the immigrants who are going through the crisis right now, right? Ice fuckers.
Yep.
Yeah. And just of feeling hunted, like a feeling unsafe, of like something could happen at any moment. Now, for me, the hunting was, the consequences of that were nowhere near what they're suffering. But
I see what you mean.
You know, but I've had that of, you know, whether it's being recognized or paparazzi, or there's something, a feeling of unsafety wherever you are. And probably a lot of women feel that in general. I'm not sure I'm making sense right now, but
no, I think you're making total sense. I think that idea of like attention being weaponized, that feels like there's a lot of crossover there.
We have to watch this together again. There's so much to say about these two precious little munchkins lamenting their horrible lives. Let's start with John Oliver, who talks about how he finally got his citizenship after working at The Daily Show and then basically stealing Jon Stewart's bit for cable.
Immigration experience is tough, even if you have the best version of it. And there's no doubt I had the best version of it. I had like Viacom lawyers.
Right.
At that point when I was with The Daily Show.
I hope you caught that. Viacom lawyers. That's the corporation that owns, or at least used to own, CBS and the Comedy Central channel. So in other words, they paid for his citizenship process. He actually had corporate lawyers working for the company that had employed him on The Daily Show to help engineer his citizenship process. Wow. What a life John's got. And may I just point out that his entire bit on The Daily Show and then on his own show on HBO, the entire thesis behind his show is to crap on this country and point out how awful it is. And yet at the same time, he's got his corporation paying tens of thousands of dollars to ensure that he can become a citizen of this country that he craps on a regular basis. That's a hell of a gig you can swing. Good for you, John.
Then I finally got my citizenship in 2019, at the end of 2019. But I realized I thought about it every day. Somewhere at the back of my head was my immigration status. At no point was it not somewhere in my mind. And I have to remind myself now, with all these stories going on.
It's so hard.
You hear what he's saying, that until he was a citizen, he always had it in the back of his mind that at any given time he could just get deported, he could get kicked out, he could be sent. And even now that he's a citizen, it's still sort of there. He has to remind himself that he's safe now. What a pretentious and I guess that there's some currency in this, that John Oliver is the victim, that he deserves your sympathy, don't you know? Because he's paid millions of dollars to tell jokes that he has a crew of people write for him in an air-conditioned studio. And things were apparently so bad in England that he was dying to become an American citizen. Let's just be clear here. The reason he wanted to be a citizen was because it cost him less in taxes. That's why. Not because he loves this country, not because he loves our Constitution or our values or our principles or e pluribus unum or our history or any of that. This was a tax deal. That's why he had his employer pay for it. It was part of his contract negotiations. Why? You can't. I need more money because I got to pay taxes back home and I got to pay taxes here. You got to give me more. Viacom says, we're not going to pay you more, John, but I'll tell you what, we'll help you get your citizenship so you don't have to pay taxes back to jolly old England anymore. Oh, all right. That sounds good to me. Now, could I get back to work crapping on this country? You're going to pay through the nose to get me citizenship for? Thank you. But there's more that's actually outrageous about this when Monica chimes in.
It brings something out of you, right? It's there, that anxiety that I thought I'd moved past that day that I got my citizenship. I thought it would be gone then. It didn't feel that.
Okay, so he's telling this to a woman who grew up in Beverly Hills, privileged, got to be an intern at the White House, got to meet the president several times, actually. She has absolutely no way of relating to this immigration story that John Oliver has just laid out there, but she knows she's got to be a part of it. She's got to own it too. Oh, I suffered too. Very similar suffering, John. In fact, my suffering is very much like the illegal immigrant criminals who are sitting in a parking lot at Home Depot right now, looking over their shoulder while they work the next human trafficking deal or drug deal. So let me please share my lived experience that is just like yours and just like Abrego Garcia MS-13 dude down the street at Lowe's.
The relief didn't feel enough.
I've had a sense of understanding a tiny, tiny bit that I empathize with the immigrants who are going through the crisis right now, right? Ice fuckers.
Yep.
Yeah. And just of feeling hunted, like a feeling unsafe of like something could happen at any moment. Now, for me, the hunting was the consequences of that were nowhere near what they're suffering. But
I see what you mean.
You know, but I've had that of, you know, being, whether it's being recognized or paparazzi or.
Yeah. It's just like it. It's just like it. You're a criminal. You're at Home Depot. You're in the country illegally. ICE can come and rightfully arrest you and deport you. That's just like Monica Lewinsky being recognized on the street, or maybe a photographer taking her picture. It's just precious. And of course, to emphasize her sympathy for the criminals who were being deported, she had to call them ICE f***ers. And point out that, you know, they're hunting people on the streets, you know, just like the paparazzi. Is this just not perfect, quintessential left-wing media bullshit? I wish that I live to be at a point where I'm this privileged, that I can make this kind of conversation on a podcast that I don't think many people are watching, but sadly, we are. One other quick thing here. She didn't want to be recognized. She was hunted. Is that why she had so much work done? Is that why she's basically altered her appearance in such a drastic way? Might be. One other observation. John Oliver, we've all been there, guys, right? When you're at a party or maybe at a bar and you got a woman and maybe you're attracted to her and she's just blithering on and making no sense, but you don't care because you're just hoping to maybe get to second base with her or something. Just watch how John Oliver handles this here, because I'm pretty sure that's what we're witnessing.
There's something, a feeling of unsafety wherever you are.
Yeah.
And probably a lot of women feel that in general. I'm not sure I'm making sense right now, but
no, I think you're making total sense. I think
you are making total sense. You are the smartest woman I have ever met, and you're spiritual and you're grounded and you're really authentic. What are you doing later? We see you, John. We see you. All right. So Tom Homan now has to deal with this congresswoman calling ICE terrorists. And now Monica Lewinsky calling them f***ers, with John Oliver agreeing and saying that ICE is hunting people down on the streets. So what's Tom Homan's response? Well, we know, but we love hearing it anyway.
Now this, the Department of Homeland Security says more than 100,000 Americans have applied to join ICE since they began a new recruiting campaign just last month. Joining me now, the border czar himself, Tom Homan. Tom, great to see you. Are you surprised by that kind of turnout?
No, I'm not shocked at all. I mean, right after the election, I mean, I was bombarded with requests from people to want to come to ICE. Retired military, retired law enforcement officers, retired ICE agents, and Border Patrol agents want to come back. I knew there should be no lack of interest. Look, the last 4 years, Americans got fed up with an open border, uncontrolled illegal immigration, the crime, the unvetted illegal aliens that were national security threats being released in this country. They got a chance to come back and fight for America. and that's exactly what they're doing. I'm not surprised at all.
So how great is that? I mean, these ICE agents are literally being physically assaulted. We had ICE agents murdered by these lunatics, and the left and the Democrats and the media continue to amp up all of the rhetoric, dehumanizing them, calling them terrorists, saying that they're hunting human beings on the streets, when all they're doing is actually their constitutional sworn duty to wear the badge and enforce the laws of the land. You've got Congress people who actually helped write those laws, who are now calling them terrorists for enforcing the laws that they helped write. And yet, tens of thousands of Americans are lining up to join their ranks. They're fine with being demonized. They want to do the right and patriotic thing. That's a great story, and it's fantastic. And we here on this program and at Town Hall, we salute all of those Americans who are wanting to protect our country and do this job, a job that is being crapped on by the left right now. But we're here to warn you, it's going to get worse before it gets better. Back to the Nutroots conference here, where, Netroots, that's right. Beto O'Rourke has really been on fire lately. He loves juicing up the crazies in his party, and he did just that with regard to immigration, redistricting, all of it. Take a look.
We are in a basketball game right now, if you'll excuse the metaphor, where the refs have left the arena. And the other side is just clobbering the shit out of us, just punching us in the face, kicking us in the nuts. And we're kind of throwing our hands up and we're asking the crowd, the people of America, hey, do you see what's going on here? This is unfair. This isn't the rules that we agreed to play by. Well, who cares about the fucking rules right now? Punch back, kick back, dunk over their heads, and win some fucking power.
There you go. Who cares about the fucking rules? Punch back, hit back, and take some power to save democracy or something. It makes sense to them. But they're telling you out loud what they do. Every single thing. And boy, is this not a consistent axiom in America circa 2025. Every single thing they accuse of Donald Trump, conservatives, and Republicans, and you of doing, of thinking, of saying, of being, they are actually guilty of. Trump's an authoritarian. Trump wants to ruin democracy. So break the rules and take some power. That sounds kind of authoritarian to me. He wasn't done.
We have watched the open display of a criminal network operating in the highest positions of power and public trust. They are scared because they have assumed that there will never be accountability. Remember, Donald Trump promised us he would be a dictator on day one. He promised us that if you vote in the 2024 elections, that's the last time you'll ever have to cast a ballot. It took Hitler just 53 days to destroy German democracy. At every major turn, every time he exceeded his authority, defied the German constitution, broke down the rule of law in that country, the German press, the German politicians, the German public, most importantly, did too little, too late.
Wow, what a historian he is. Can I just break this down real fast? Because my friends, if you're a Trump supporter, if you are a conservative Republican, you should be really worried here. I don't know if you saw this, if it really registered real fast, Beto. And here's the real problem. This is Beto O'Rourke, you guys. I mean, he is such an effective politician. I mean, he's recently run statewide in Texas, and he ran for president, and he was overwhelmingly defeated. But still, he's Beto O'Rourke, and he gets on the cover of magazines, and he gets interviewed at the Netroots conference. I'm sure he'll show up on MSNBC. In fact, I'm thinking primetime show at some point he's going to be hosting. I think that might be the next path for him, but that's okay. You should be really concerned, because look at the playbook that Beto and the left and the Democrats are going to use against Trump and against you and against J.D. Vance and any other Republican running in 26. They're laying it out for you. This is scary stuff. Here, let's break it down.
We have watched the open display of a criminal network operating in the highest positions of power and public trust. They are
okay. So let's just be clear here. He's going to call Donald Trump a criminal. In fact, they may even say that he's been convicted of like 34 felonies, including sexual assault or something they'll make up, that he's in some way, guilty of stealing state secrets that he's going to keep in his home in Mar-a-Lago and then sell them to the Saudis or something. Maybe they'll even accuse him of leading an insurrection against the United States of America. And this next election will be the last one ever. That's what they're going to do, you guys. And there's more. Watch.
Scared because they have assumed that there will never be accountability. Remember, Donald Trump promised us he would be a dictator on day one.
Oh my gosh, they're gonna quote Donald Trump and say that he was a dictator on day one, right? Oh my God, this is going to be devastating, you guys. What else are you going to do?
Promised us that if you vote in the 2024 elections, that's the last time you'll ever have to cast a ballot.
Oh crap, you guys. They're going to say that if Donald Trump wins the election, we won't have another election again in this country, that it's the end of democracy. Dude, they're serious this time. This is really going to leave a mark.
It took Hitler just 53 days to destroy German democracy.
Oh no, that's it. It's over. We're done. They're going to compare Donald Trump to Hitler. How will we ever recover from this? Trump is toast. It's history. Why didn't they do this 10 years ago when he first came on the scene? Why didn't they do this in the 2016 election? Why didn't they do this in 2020? Oh, that's right. There's nothing new here. This is literally everything Napoleon Dynamite just said is basically all they had in 2024. Everything, literally. And I think they weren't really paying attention to the results. So that's why they just keep going there. A little bit more from Beto.
I also don't want Gavin Newsom, J.B. Pritzker, and Kathy Hochul, and any other Democrat who has unitary power in their state to wait for Texas to go first. I want us to seize the initiative instead of awaiting the punch thrown by these would-be fascists to hit us in the face and then respond. I want us to punch first, and I want us to punch harder. So I want them to redraw those districts right now.
There you go. Well, if he says so, then they will. And Gavin Newsom, apparently, well, when Beto O'Rourke says jump, Gavin says, how high, Mr. O'Rourke? Because he put this out earlier today through his press office. I had to check it out. Apparently, this is not satire. This is really Gavin Newsom's team. Donald Taco Trump, as many call him, missed the deadline. California will now draw new, more beautiful maps. They will be historic as they will end the Trump presidency. Dems take back the House. Big press conference this week with powerful Dems and Gavin Newsom, your favorite governor. That will be devastating for MAGA. Thank you for your attention to this matter, GN. I think that stands for Gavin Newsom. That's real. That's not a satire. That's not like Babylon Bee stuff. That's really Gavin Newsom. They've lost it. They're absolutely unhinged. And I have a sad reality for Gavin Newsom. He can't redistrict unilaterally, and he can't even do it through Sacramento. He's got to do a state initiative to bypass the current laws in California. And even if he did, he's got nothing left. It's as Democrat as they could possibly make it. Same with Illinois, same with New York, same with Massachusetts, same with Maryland, and on and on and on. They're pissed off because Texas has caught up, but that's okay because Beto wants them to punch fascist Republicans in the face first before they get punched. Have you noticed they're using a lot of violent rhetoric? As my friend Kurt Schlichter says, if you want this to be violent, go ahead, but it ain't going to end well for you. Oh, I had to sneeze right there. It ain't going to end well for you at all, but go ahead and try. Beto. Whew, man, oh man. Sorry about that.
Bless you.
Thank you, Kevin. I appreciate that. I hope there were a lot of Gesundheits in the chat. Thanks for watching today. Let's get to your super chats. Give us a like and a subscribe. Whew. Why did I think we, you know what, we're doing construction outside the studio, as you know, for the last couple of weeks, and there's still some dust in the air. Jackass whiskey and pinto beans. Now I'm hungry and thirsty. Thanks, Jackass. Can I call you Jackass? With a $5 super chat. A few days ago, I bought a deed signed by Frederick. Oh, cool. And 2 other ephemera signed by a Declaration of Independence signers. Dude, that is so cool. A deed for what? Like property, Maryland property? That's very cool, jackass. Can I call you? Angela with the $2 super chat. Hi, Angela. Thank you. Wasn't it DC where Jewish diplomats were murdered? Yes, that is. Well, no, only one of them was a Jewish or an Israeli diplomat. They were one of them. So here's the story. Yes, they were murdered right out in front of an event held by the Israeli embassy. They both worked for the Israeli embassy. The woman was an American citizen who was Jewish. The man was an Israeli citizen who worked here, and he was a Christian, and they were murdered. That is correct. Angela with a $5 super chat. Prices would be even lower if stores weren't being looted by thugs and illegals were deported instead of taking up resources and jobs. Yeah, that's a great point. Inflation is good and prices are good, and it could be even better if major cities weren't allowing for shoplifting. Who do you think pays for all that shoplifting? You do. They're not going to take a loss. They jack their prices up. Great point, Angela. I will steal it next time I do a segment about that. Angela with a $2 super chat. Does she broadcast under a desk asking for a friend? Oh, Monica. See, now that's just a cheap. I didn't make any cheap jokes like that about Monica Lewinsky, did I? Although I did read some of your suggestions for the name of the podcast, and you should all be ashamed of yourself. Absolutely ashamed. Angela with a $2 super chat. Who was POTUS in 2019? Donald Trump was president. Oh, you mean when John Oliver was talking about how he got his citizenship in 2019? Yes, Trump was. Susan Shellett with a £6 super chat. Susan's in Amsterdam, right? Susan, I'm heading to Amsterdam. I'll be there in like 2 weeks. Feelings don't care about facts. I can't. This is epic level stupidity. Yeah, that was SE Cup. I think she was trying to be clever by doing a spin on facts don't care about your feelings, because she was saying, see, Democrats do have the facts on their side with regard to the statistics on crime, but it doesn't matter because people feel unsafe and feelings are more important than this. That's what she said. Angela, $2 super chat. What kind of man has a vase of flowers next to him? Thank you. You know, I was going to say something about the vase. Did they get that at like the local grocery store? Why even bother putting that little vase of cut flowers there? I noticed that too. I was going to say something, but that segment was already running a bit over. So thank you. God's best friend with a £2 super chat. It's not insurrection. It's erection. Ask Chuck. I forgot about that's a great clip from Chuck Schumer. Good old Chuck Schumer. Too bad he's not going to be around much longer. Boy, you talk about John Oliver. He went hard after Chuck Schumer. We would show you the clip, but it'll get copyright infringement, so we're not going to. But boy, the left is done with Chuck Schumer. He is a dead man walking politically. Psychological projection is £2 super chat. Why redistrict if there's never going to be That's a great point. It's the end of democracy. Trump won. We're never going to have another election. Now, about the redistricting. Thank you. That's brilliant. God, we've got the smartest audience. Mike Shriver Ministries with a $5 super chat. Thank you, Mike. We know how active and supportive you are of the show. What makes a person great? They surround themselves with people. You, good sir, have the greatest membership and subscriber base on all of YouTube. That's what I was just saying. They really are great. And we are very fortunate to have them. And trust me, it's not my doing. I'm just lucky that all of you are out there. I'm very fortunate to have this great group of subscribers and chatters for our live show every day. We also have a $10 super chat from Rumble. For some reason, we still can't get that interface working with Rumble super chats on our screen. It's from our buddy Arthur Brogdon over there. Everything Beto claims about Trump is what Obama and Biden did to him. FAFO. Yeah, we are living through the greatest FAFO in our nation's history. I know it's supposed to be the golden age, but it's really the FAFO age. Thank you for that, Arthur. I appreciate that, and our entire audience over on Rumble as well. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Let's get an update here. What are we looking at right now on subscribers? I'm gonna look. Oh, we're still hovering around 585,000, 586,000. So we got about 15,000 subscribers to go, and then we'll do our big 600,000 subscriber blowout special. But until we do, subscribe, tell a friend to subscribe, give us a like, and we'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place. In the meantime, my name's Larry O'Connor, and you can call me Larry.